And we are, well, we're getting into November. I'm getting into holidays soon, so we'll see how much we can get done today. So last time when we met, we had basically kind of worked on a definition for source reduction and waste. And thanks to Aster, she had also put together like a document for basically for us to fill in for different subcategories of waste as we had taken up, and just to look at how what are the sort of the low hanging fruit, what are the sources that we want to look at, how is it relevant to Nevada, how, various criteria that we had put. So, and thanks to Kayla and Brianna, we had sent that out. I can't remember how long ago, but it seems like a long time. Now, and then of course, a lot of people had signed up to the subgroups, and I don't know, we're here to kind of look at what the subgroups had done to during this time, and what we can report back on. Yeah, that's about it for me. And Liz, Brianna, you want to add anything to that?
Not really. I don't really have much to add, but yeah, I think we should try and do some reporting. I don't know how much was done. I know I'm at fault for not having done a whole heck of a lot, but I do have a meeting after this with construction people who are interested in researching construction waste. So we'll see where we go with that. So yeah.
Okay. So, Bree, do you happen to have the document handy? Maybe you just kind of
share
that.
I can share it.
I do have, from our couple of subgroups, we can, Nima is here, and Patty joins, we can speak to it, but yeah. Maybe we'll look at the subgroups we had, who had signed up for what.
Can you see my screen?
Yep,
yes,
we can.
Okay.
And Kim and Tina, the subgroups that we had created, I know, a lot of you have been on vacation or this and that, and so this is still open. We want more people, we want a lot more input. So it's nothing in, it was just what we put together that last meeting. Please join us. Whatever interests you in these subgroups, yeah, just let us know. And then when we meet as a smaller groups, we can have more input there. Yeah. Anything that interests you guys?
Lakshmi, let me just ask Tina, since you're on the line, would you be interested in joining the construction material and debris group? Because I think you have probably a ton of knowledge that would be helpful. Can I rope you into that subgroup? Maybe, maybe not.
It looks like, Tina, you're unmuted, but we can't hear you if you're talking.
And that's fine. You can send me an email or send an email to Bree if you don't have my email address handy, and just let me know. Or at least if I can just pick your brain a little bit, that would be great.
Yeah. Same with Kim, Darren. Are you interested in joining some of the subgroups?
Yeah, I'm going to take a look at this document. I haven't really gotten to this part of my emails. So I haven't really seen this yet, but I mean, I would be interested in joining one. I just don't know which one would be the most feasible.
Yeah, just ping us and then we will continue. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I know that it's basically, it looks like daunting, but it's not really. I mean, you know, what we've done is, well, thanks to Astra, like I said, really more like a definition, you know, of each kind of waste there, and then what kind of things we want to be looking at as we go forward as categorizing this waste and, you know, source. So depending on what you're interested, I'm pretty sure you all already have enough knowledge on each of these things that probably not going to be that big a deal, you know. No. So having said that, so Liz, do you want to? I think you had a couple of slides that you wanted to talk about, and then we'll move on to the next thing. And I have a couple of slides to share later as well.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Let me see if I can share my screen here. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, good. So I've just started to dig into how to find, this is for hazardous waste. So the hazardous waste subgroup is now just me. Bree, I know you said you'd chime in if I needed some help. That might be helpful because I talked with David Gill, I think it is, yesterday, and he bowed out. It's a little bit too much for him. So I just kind of dug into where we can get data on how much hazardous waste is generated in Nevada and what type it is. So there's the TRI is the Toxic Release Inventory Database, and it's put together by the EPA, and it's a federally mandated program that facilities have to report their releases of certain chemicals, namely cancer and other chronic human health effects chemicals, ones that, you know, are acute human health effects and adverse environmental effects. So you can, this is public knowledge, and you can get on to these websites and use the tools to kind of drill down into Nevada. I haven't used them a whole lot. I don't know, Bree, if you've done it much, but super cool to do. This shows a fact sheet for Nevada. So there's 142 reporting facilities out of the 21,000 in the US. It kind of just tells you an overview of what's being released into the environment. And when I say released into the environment, these are not spills per se. I mean, yes, they are, but there's also landfill type of activities going on, emissions from air. So there's a lot of, it's a really big overview, but what I like about it is we can drill down into facilities and chemicals, and you can see where it's going or where it's coming from. And then this next slide just shows a map of that. And I actually you can take mining out of it because I don't feel like that's something we can tackle in this group or in this program. And so you can see here, like this big circle here is US Ecology, which is the hazardous waste landfill down in Beatty. But some of these other ones, you can drill in a lot closer than what I've done. I just wanted to give you an overview, but you can see what kind of facilities are. So for example, there's one up here in Carson that is actually a plastics and rubber type of facility, and it's done by NAICS codes, so the industry codes that a lot of things are categorized by, and then you can just drill down to the facility itself and what they make and what they're producing. So by taking this data and back engineering to see where a lot of it's coming from, I feel like I can find out, you know, what kind of products are being produced and then how we can go into source reduction. The other thing that the EPA does is with the TRI data, you can go in and you can look at pollution prevention programs that facilities are using and what they're doing and what kind of programs they have in place to reduce this type of waste. So there's a lot of information out there. This is just as far as I got. There is one more area that I can look at, and that is the every other year facilities have to report, large quantity generators of hazardous waste have to report how much waste they generated. So it's an every other year. It's coming up on the cycle of reporting, but you can actually look at that data and see who's reporting, how much they're reporting on, how much hazardous waste they have generated. And so it's a really good way for my little subgroup of me, and hopefully I can rope in some other people, to start looking at what's being generated, what impact it's having in Nevada, and what kind of pollution prevention programs are working and what's around the rest of the US and what's working in Nevada. So I will stop sharing. I don't know, does anybody have any questions about that?
So if I get you right, like one way we could approach this is using that TRI to see where like the big potential generators are and mapping that to the biannual reporting from RCRA and seeing, you know, which waste streams are really high for hazardous waste.
Yeah, and I was thinking, you know, what are we trying to look at starting? Like, we need to find out what's being generated. So this is just kind of where I started. And I think there's enough drill down ability with these tools that the EPA has put out that we can look in Nevada and see what the impacts are. So that's just kind of where I started.
Makes sense.
Okay, yeah. That's great.
This is Tina. I finally found some audio. Sorry about that, guys. On the slide that you showed with the quantities, was that emitted quantities or utilized quantities?
So this is emitted quantities. So it is,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious. We TRI report, and I was curious what is reported on the other end.
Oh, okay. I would love to pick your brain on how that works, because I just, you know,
It is a nightmare. There are entire consulting firms set up just to help people like me stay out of jail for misreporting. It's a bear, but I would make myself available to you for sure.
Okay, that'd be great. I'll reach out to you.
Great. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Tina. So I would like to kind of show where we are with NEMA. Patty, myself, and David met last Friday, and then NEMA has been feeding me all kinds of data. So, but what I have done is taken a little bit of created a slide deck. It doesn't really have a lot of data, but kind of like what our strategy is. So I'm going to share that with you. So give me one sec. Okay, here we go. I guess, can you guys see it okay? So what we, and Nima and Patty and all, please chime in, interrupt me, no problem, I don't mind at all. What we discussed was, where is more of the, you know, how do we, because our focus was both textiles and plastic, single-use plastic, and it was pretty obvious that most of the waste is coming from the hospitality industry, especially in Southern Nevada and of course in Northern. And so we decided, because Nima's already been kind of working on this with the casino industry, so she will speak a little bit more about it. I'm going to just do a high level touch on it. So we identified these things as the sources where the waste is happening: casinos, hotels, airports, and then where plastic film is used to package up the goods that are sent to them, the things that will get showcased in their the retail stores or in the hotels, things like that. And the textile waste is definitely part of that as well. So that's what we identified as probably the ones that we should look at. So again, the opportunities are is working with these specific groups, and definitely Nima has a contact with the Caesars, and she'll, again, I'll give the floor to her in a minute. This is kind of what we think we could focus our attention on. One last thing, the knowledge gap. I put this together, Brianna. This is for something that we could use, if we can get help from NDEP in, collecting some more data from some of the studies. So from there, actually, Nima, do you want to talk a little bit more about your interaction already with the casinos and what you have done and all that? So
sure.
Yeah.
So what I'm focusing on right now is, or what we are, is 3 groups actually, or hold on here, let me take my headset off. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I've been doing with what I do anyway is I work with the casinos, and I identified 2 really good, I think it's low-hanging fruit for us and the other groups, because so Caesars Palace, they own several brands, and there was just an acquisition earlier this year with it's a group up in Northern California. So they are now, what they're doing is that they're buying up properties, they're expanding their brand, and part of this new commitment that they just began in the beginning of this year, but they actually began this program. It's called Code Green, and Code Green, it's a corporate social responsibility strategy. And they have been addressing basically water waste. Here, let me bring some stuff up here so I can directly quote properly.
I can stop sharing if you want to share.
Yeah, hold on here. I'm sorry. I've got so much stuff going on. So I'm actually talking with the woman, Gwen, who spearheaded Code Green. And it's Caesars Entertainment's corporate responsibility strategy. And so they're all about waste, water, and they have created a program actually for their linens, their towels and things like that. And they work with a nonprofit in cutting that waste up and then using it for industrial applications. So the point is they're very, very fluid with taking a look at issues that they have in their basically their business model and addressing them. They're also really, really big into working with the communities. So I'm actually I'm talking with a couple people at the Caesars Foundation or Caesars Group up in Northern California / Nevada, and down here as well in Vegas. I'm actually in Palm Springs right now, so I'm sorry if I keep referring to Vegas. And then I actually also work with a group called SRT. And hold on, let me go back in. I'm sorry, SRP. SRP companies, they are basically, they work with 150 brands globally. And what they do is they are the actual distributor, and oftentimes they may own some of the products that they sell, distribute to all the airports and all the casinos in North America. This also includes all of the amusement parks. So SRP companies, I actually work with a gentleman by the name of Joe Price. He's actually in Las Vegas. He's actually part of one of my companies, and helping me address some waste issues. But the point is I'm talking with him because we can talk with SRP that is the go-to for this enormous footprint with the airport stores. Okay, so this company services all of that. So they do distribution, they do product placement, merchandising, all of it. And basically, Joe, he works with all the casinos in Vegas. So I'm working that angle as well. And then also MGM they're into sustainability, but more so I'm talking to Cirque du Soleil. And through my contacts I have a friend of mine who is in business. His business partner is actually Guy Lebert. He's the founder of Cirque du Soleil. And I have a meeting with them in the next couple weeks. I'm actually physically meeting with them in the middle of December. But Cirque du Soleil is really into sustainability. They actually own several performance circuses around the world. They own several properties. And they have a huge issue with plastic waste and textile waste. So they actually buy all of their textiles from outside. They source globally, but they do all of their own in-house dyeing, and they do as much in-house procurement as they can. So I'm talking with them in another capacity. I actually work with a company up in Utah. I take their PET felt waste. They work in the architectural and construction industry. I take their waste and I melt it. I melt it down and we recomposite it. And the goal is to actually work with companies like Cirque du Soleil in their props. They're all the way into textiles and things like that. So Cirque du Soleil, MGM, Caesar's Palace, and then SRP. They're all in Vegas. Now, I really love the Caesars Group because, like I said, they have a huge global presence in Nevada. The family is in northern Nevada, and they're really into sustainability. They're new to the scene, basically, but this is a large acquisition that happened at the beginning of this year. So it's part of the Eldorado Group, basically. So that's what I'm working on, and what I can do is actually I created 3-page summary of the stakeholders that I'm talking to, why I'm talking to them, and what they do, and how they can help us. So how I approach this type of stuff, because it can feel daunting, is to look at stakeholders that can actually help us make a larger imprint and affect change with just not what we're doing with source reduction. So single-use plastics, their straws, not using their straws in their bars, their restaurants. There's things that they can do from basically, they pretty much can make their own shots. They call their own shots when they're working with companies like SRP. They can say, look, we don't want to use single-use plastics in our retail. So anytime they get something in their shops and their various stores that they have, every single shirt, every single tchotchke is in a single-use plastic that's in another bag, in a box. So that's why I'm talking to these groups of people or organizations, because they have such a large market footprint. And the other thing in regards to Elizabeth Construction, I think also the Caesars Group would be, if I can get these guys and gals on board and become part of the group, because that's what I'm proposing, that they join our group and help us, implement, and help us, maybe consult with us, because they have data. They have some really hard numbers. It's pretty impressive on the water that they're recapturing, their linen recapture. They're into huge social equity programs. It's Code Green, Google them. Anyway, so that's what I'm working on. And what I can do is, Lakshmi, if you're comfortable with it, if you feel like it, you're more than welcome to forward the email that I sent you, just as the summary of the stakeholders that I'm talking with. Mm-hmm. And then that way I can update you. And if you are okay, you can update the group and let them know where everything's at. And You know, the other thing I was thinking about too is there's a gentleman, I forget what group he's in, but he works at the airport. And that's one of the SRP, they actually service the airport in all their stores. So I'm thinking that maybe reaching out to that gentleman would be good, because I'm certain that, Joe, we could put them together with SRP and possibly they could come up with a plan of eliminating the single-use plastics, at least in their retail operations, you know, at least that. So that's where I'm at with everything.
Yeah, thank you, Nima. So yeah, one of the goals here is to bring those stakeholders into our group as possible.
Let me see if I can upload this so you guys can see it without having to wait.
I think, yeah, I can forward it on, or if you send
Oh, perfect. That'd be great, Lakshmi.
you can actually also forward it on to the entire group. So either way, that's no issues at all.
Okay, I'm still trying to figure this Zoom stuff out, so I'm not real smart with it.
Yeah, just send either to Lakshmi or myself, and we can get that to the rest of the group.
Okay, yeah, and you know, and everybody, you know, it's like if you want input or you have a thought or an angle, let me know. And you know, because this is really about, I want to help everybody, and I think that there's some opportunity here, especially with Code Green and Caesars, that group. You know, there's a lot of things that I think that we could potentially get some help with. So.
Yeah, I'd like to kind of get everybody else's feedback from, you know, what do you think about it? And I think this is a great idea.
One more food for thought, you guys. I'm sorry, but one more thing in my research that I just discovered is that Caesars Entertainment, aka the El Dorado Resort, they just became an official partner for the NFL for the New Orleans Saints. So they're doing a huge amount of investing in New Orleans because they of the hurricanes and all of that kind of stuff. So they're really going into communities that have been hit hard, that they have a huge presence for their hospitality, and really looking at this stuff. So I feel like, you know, in literally from the construction all the way to the water, to the single-use plastics, to the textiles, I think that there's some, I feel like that there's some real, there's a really good rub there, you know, that they could potentially help us with a lot of different things and help us get to the finish line faster. So we're not doing meetings after meetings after meetings and nothing gets done, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Nima, that was, see?
Sorry, guys.
That was great.
So the point is, I'm thinking like NFL. You know, I keep going back to the sports industry. It's huge in Las Vegas, you know, and, you know, there is a huge amount of waste in those coliseums. You know, there's so much transient waste going into because people taking their trash in, just like at the airports. And that's one of the largest problems in Vegas is imported trash, you know, so I'm thinking that I feel good about the Caesars deal. And there's an opportunity to go into other areas for us, such as the sports industry and working with some of the teams and recapturing some of their stadium waste and, you know, having them be part of the dialogue, help us make smart policy that helps businesses, doesn't hurt them, and also helps the planet.
Yeah, definitely. So, Bree, I mean, in terms of like how it fits into the bigger goal here, I mean, what do you think? Just kind of.
Well, if as you guys are identifying the problems, if you guys are seeing that casinos and, you know, retail and stuff are, you know, the main sources of waste for those problem wastes, they're definitely stakeholders to reach out to and see what they've got going on. If they have any data that they can share with us, you know, that would be good too. Maybe they have programs in place that are working Maybe there's some that they've done that haven't worked in the past. So they would be definitely a good source of information. I think for the short term, it's more, I guess, identifying how they play a role if they've got a problem, if they're the source of a major waste stream. So does that make sense?
I think it's about, talking to them about the economic impact, because it means less money that they have to put out in that packaging. And not to mention, they can actually say they're part of the solution. So the Code Green with the Caesars, take a look at that group. It's impressive. And they actually do have published data, Brianna. And that was another reason I reached out to them, because they actually have data that would be very helpful to the state, in terms of what they're mitigating and what they're looking at, huge amounts of water consumption, So I just, I agree with you, but I think that if we approach them as a consumer, because they're consuming, they pay money for every single-use plastics. And then the straws, the stir straws are just stupid. I'm sorry. Things like that. I think that's, if we approach it that way, then they go, okay, yeah, that makes sense, And in the fashion industry, there's some really incredible breakthrough ways in packaging, like that, they can take a look at, or we can help them take a look at it, whatever. But the bottom line is, I really think that the single-use plastic use, because it's a cost, it's just one less cost that they have to come out with, and one less cost that the casinos have to deal with in terms of waste management, and so on and so on and so on, And it's just, I think that, if you just look at it from an economics position, I think, companies are always interested in saving money, period. And that's how we approach it.
Yeah. Well, so the first round of this discussion is just, identifying the problems. It's not looking at the solutions yet.
Right.
As we move farther down, so we identify, okay, hotels and casinos are a big source of the single-use plastics. Then when we get to the solutions part of this exercise in a few months, then we can start listing, okay, reach out to casinos to figure out a way to reduce those plastic stirs or stuff like that. So I think you're thinking a few steps ahead. So right now we're just trying to figure out some opportunities and problem areas, and the solutions will come in the later planning stages. So
yeah, but Brianna, I think it's important that we position, basically, if we have an idea for the solution to these stakeholders, that we have a beginning and a middle and an end with them, because otherwise they're going to go, well, okay, so what are you proposing? And you don't have an idea, because we're coming to them to want to help, to engage. And I think that we have to, not necessarily that it's set in stone, but, kind of some ideas on how to help them move that gauge so that we're not spinning our wheels. We've identified the problem, but also we can provide some solutions, and they may push it down or whatever. But I think it's important with these stakeholders, because time is money for them, and they want solutions. If we're trying to approach them with this really big task, it's a big task. It really is. But I think if it's positioned and spoke well, and like I said, from a consumer standpoint, economics, it's cheaper for them. It's relatively just basically telling them, their suppliers, that they just don't want it. They don't have to change their entire business model for it. That's the only reason why, Brianna, I was thinking of that aspect of, they can just, from a financial aspect, just eliminate that, because I don't want to go in there talking to these people and saying, well, yeah, we have this idea, but we don't really, they don't work like that. I mean, I've been doing this for 6 years, and they don't want to hear that. They want to hear, okay, so what's your solution?
Right. Neva, we could talk, actually, Liz and I, because it's kind of going off tangent a little bit.
Sorry about that. Okay.
Do a separate meeting discussing how to bring them in. But yeah, no, you do make some good points about, they want solutions. So I understand that.
Yeah. I think Tammy wants to say something. Tamara, or do you rather go by Tamara or Tammy? Sorry.
Yeah, either one.
Okay.
I go by both. Whatever rolls off your tongue. Hi everyone. I haven't spoken much, and I'm sorry I missed one did want to jump in here when we're talking about the plastic and the textile, because those are the two things that I'm pretty involved in at the moment. And I do agree. I know that I don't want to go too far off tangent, but I do agree that knowing some solutions or having some ideas of solutions is important to discuss before going to these people. But I think that there's also some problems in the solutions. And I'm not talking on the big scale, Nima, that you were just talking about, but on the little scale that I'm doing, it's just the recapture process itself there are problems within the solution, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So when we have these ideas for what might be the solution, when they actually start to get implemented, I think that there's more problems arise. And so being able to like maybe discuss, get into a discussion about that. And I don't know at what point is like, how do we address those issues? And like to bring that into real terms, you know, one of the things I have right now is just collecting the plastic, and it's too much for me. I'm collecting plastic from one clothing store, and my garage is half of my garage is full of plastic that I have to bring in. And so I've started to try and implement a solution without having the answers, and I'm dealing with the problems that are arising from that as they come. And so I do think that there is some value in discussing the solution and having something thought through. I just wanted to say that. Same with textiles. We are legally, we have to have the single-use plastic and put all of our clothing that we import in the single-use plastic with the little packets. And if we don't, they'll stop us at the border. So some of that is like beyond our, someone can't come to my company and say, just stop using the plastic. So I don't know. I would like to discuss solutions as we get through, but there are some problems that we can identify within the potential solutions that we're talking about maybe right now when we're identifying problems, because those are the problems I've identified.
Well, if you have active programs going on that the program is a solution and you have problems, that is a problem area to identify, if that makes sense. Right. So yeah, so that is something definitely to bring up in that document where we're putting all the research and identifying problems. That would definitely go in there if it's an active program going on and you're encountering issues.
Okay, got it.
And also, Tamara, the one thing you brought up is interesting. The existing policies sometimes, whether it makes sense or not, is something we probably should look at, and it's maybe hand it over to the policy team to say, hey, look, this policy exists, but it doesn't really serve any particular greater good purpose. So
right, there's a problem in the policy that's preventing the solution from occurring.
Exactly. So it's something that Tina is here. She's leading that team. So this is maybe if we know exactly which policy it is, it would be good to give it to them to take a look at. So
that is exactly right. And actually, you folks are going to be, I think the chairs are going to be getting, I think the chairs or members, I'm not sure how we set it up, are going to be getting a survey about asking what current policies or barriers in your realm of knowledge that you're aware of in implementing these things. Likewise, we're also asking for great examples of where other entities, maybe municipalities, have implemented things and they have measurable results, because our goal at the policy group is to avoid unintended consequences of exactly what you're saying, trying to do something great and then potentially putting the burden on somebody who doesn't have enforcement or creating another problem. We're trying to be very conscious of that. So that's kind of why I'm calling into all these groups, is I'm just listening along to try to identify some of this stuff to bring to the policy group. So Lakshmi's totally right. Please, communicate that up through her or directly to us, but you should be seeing a survey. This is exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah, and that, Nima, that reminds me something Bree said earlier. If there are certain things that Green Initiative from Caesars that has worked for them, it would be good to kind of find out what that is and see if we can how we can put that for later, whether it's through policy or through just more, some kind of a marketing thing with other groups, but other casinos and hotels might be something we should probably look at specifically.
Yeah, that's the whole purpose. The other thing is that the EPA is actually releasing new numbers this month. So it's been since 2019. So all the new waste information is coming out based upon the census. So the numbers with plastic and all of that's going to be updated this month. So I've been looking for it. It still hasn't, they haven't dropped it yet, but they said November. So it'll have more current stuff about what's really happening in the country.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to be taking up all the entire time. Anybody else have any thoughts that you want to share?
Lakshmi, do we have people working in each group, or have we, through attrition, kind of lost?
May want to double check that one. Yeah, and well, Kim said she will look through the subgroups and get back to us. Tamara, you probably joined a little bit late.
I did, and so I don't actually have a group.
There are a few subgroups Bree, sorry, do you mind bringing that list up again?
Sure.
So, I'm not sure who the Colin, other than Tina, who the other two are. So if you want to take a look at that. We'd like more participation, definitely, because, the more people with more interesting backgrounds and, experience. Yeah.
Looking at, I kind of put it in my chat earlier, but when I was talking to myself and didn't realize I was not having audio, on the construction and material debris one, we recycle, just granite alone recycles about 300,000 tons of asphalt and concrete a year for reuse, which is super nice. Our issue in the construction world really is packaging. That's our primary waste issue, is similar to other folks in the packaging. The stuff we receive on jobs, comes on pallets wrapped in 42 miles of plastic. And I mean, that's one huge issue for us. And then I know the vertical contractors have demo type debris, and I don't really have a lot of experience in that, so I'd have to reach out to somebody. But our industry is not much different than others in that sense, is that, one of the big one is the packaging waste. And then, of course, the demolition waste, depending on what we're demoing, we could be into hazardous materials. But I will say that the construction industry does do a pretty dang good job of recycling material. Probably, I would say as a whole, if you're looking at weight-wise, probably more than most. But where I think the opportunity is for us is that when it comes to construction, whether it's vertical or horizontal, and for those of you who aren't construction folks, horizontal being your roads and bridges, and vertical being, the big tilt-up buildings and houses and things like that. The opportunity really is with the owners and the designers. For instance, we build hundreds of miles of road for NDOT, and we have to build it to the specifications they have and with the items they tell us to. And so if we can get on the designer side of things to start reducing waste, encouraging reuse, and looking at their materials, which we are doing actually, Lakshmi, I'm going to talk to NDOT, because, I mean, the government is one of your biggest customers, right? So if you can target your biggest customer and get them to do things a little bit better, it might help all of us. So anyway, I don't know that I mean, if you want to call me the construction material subgroup, that's what I know at the moment, and it kind of dovetails into some other stuff I'm doing. And I can try to get you some more information. I just loosely commit because I'm super overcommitted through the rest of the year on a couple of big things that just popped up. So hopefully that helps with a little update on where the industry stands as far as construction materials concerned.
No, that's great. I'll probably reach out to you a little bit with just questions, just so I can start gathering data. And in fact, I copied some of your text from your chat and dumped it into our source reduction working group draft underneath packaging, actually underneath packaging, because if that's a huge source, you know, I would imagine having built a house in the last, you know, couple of years, I saw the pallets and the boxes and all the stuff that got thrown out in just dumpster loads, and this was just one house. So I did
and you know,
stick it into packaging.
And I'll look at, so I'm part of the National AGC Environmental Steering Committee. We're a group that works out of DC and represents construction as a whole. And on the environmental steering committee, one of the things we are looking at as an industry is waste reduction. So this is actually a thing that's occurring at the national stage. So I'll see where we're at with our national group, and maybe we've got some numbers or feedback or whatever that I could provide the group next time.
That'd be great.
That'd be great. Thank you. Anyone else? So, yeah, Tammy, Tamara, I'm guessing you might be interested in the plastic waste single-use stuff and packaging. So, in a subgroup. Okay. Okay, well, we'll send out another email just as a reminder to maybe see if you can sign up for the subgroup so we can meet separately rather than in the big group. You know, so sometimes it's a lot easier to discuss matters that way. So. Tamara, it is working. You guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Tammy, I don't know what happened there for you with your audio. So, so as of now, I mean, I don't have any more to share about this. I guess we got to look at the next steps. Bree, I'm not really sure. I know we were supposed to get back to end up about, you know, what we have identified as the sources, and we're kind of sort of there. But I mean, we can provide the data as part of this document here, or you know, how would you like to see it, and what's your
Yeah, it might be easiest if we one way we can go about this is if you send me everybody's data and I can put it into the format of this document, or you guys can do it as well. Mainly for this first milestone, we're looking at, you know, what are the problems and some background information on the problems so we can identify reasonable solutions later on. And that's what these focus questions are in this document for each topic. So finding information on these 7 questions for each subgroup will help us hit that first milestone. So if you guys are becoming super overwhelmed, if you send me the information, I can just put it into that format for you guys. Just let me know.
Okay. We'll take a quick stab at it. I know, there's a mountain of data, but at the same time, what I found it, finding data that's more relevant to Nevada has been the more difficult one, and more recent data, because everything we have is, so like Washoe County, it was 2018, right? So, and we don't have a lot of data specific to, let's say, what we're targeting, like the hospitality industry. So it's hard to quantify that. So I don't know what we can do about that. So
some of those are going to be your problems to list on the document sheet. So the knowledge gap with the waste characterization, like you pointed out, would be an item for that menu of options. And then how would we go about, what is the solution to fill the gap? So that is one problem area you guys already have identified. So that's good. And then Nima pointed out that there's a ton of information on the Code Green initiative, so we can look into that, see what's there. So yeah, the big point is gathering what data do we have, what does it tell us, and what are the gaps?
Okay.
Make sure you guys, if you do look up Code Green, you put Caesars in front of it so that you get the proper program, because it gets kind of, the Code Green thing's really used a lot.
Yeah, understood. Got it. Okay, so I guess we can accomplish that more by email to update this document. We don't really need the meeting. We did have another meeting on the agenda, I think, just because we skipped a week there. So I'd like to kind of look at when would be a good time to meet next. So let's take a survey of the people here, or shall we send out another email survey? What do you guys think?
Can you send an email survey out? Because then I can attach it to my calendar.
Okay. All right. So we'll work that out with Brianna, and then we'll send it out later today.
Yeah, we'll send out a poll and figure out what the next meeting time is for you guys. That way we can capture the people that were unable to make it today.
Yep. Sorry, Patty, anybody, the others, do you have anything to add? I know some of us, I kept talking too much, so please.
I don't really have anything to add today, sorry.
That's all right. Don't mean to put you on the spot, but yeah, thank you. So if not, I hope to hear from all of you about joining the subgroups, and we'll, put a little more work into recognizing some of the challenges, and we'll fill out that document and send it out. And until next time, I don't have anything else. Liz, Priya?
I have nothing else. Good to see you all. So.
Nope,
Okay.
you guys are off to a great start. That's cool.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Kim, and everybody.
Thank you all. Have a good week.